In 2020, scientists cracked open 442 ancient graves. What they pulled from those bones destroyed everything we thought we knew about Vikings. Here's what nobody's telling you. That blonde, blue-eyed warrior you picture when someone says Viking, he probably never existed. The real Vikings? Many had dark hair, brown eyes. And here's the part that's going to break your brain. Some of the most famous Viking warriors buried in Scandinavia had zero Scandinavian DNA. None, not a single trace. I'm about to show you how one DNA study rewrote 1,000 years of history in a single afternoon. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why everything, the movies, the TV shows, the textbooks, got it completely backwards. But first, I need to show you what they found in Grave 23, because that's where this mystery begins. In a small town in Norway, archaeologists had been excavating Viking burial sites for decades. Same old story, swords, shields, typical warrior burials. Then they reached Grave 23. Inside, a warrior buried with full Viking honors, weapons, jewelry, the works. Everyone assumed they knew exactly who this was, another Scandinavian raider. Then the DNA results came back. The room went silent. This Viking warrior wasn't from Scandinavia, not from Norway, not from Sweden, not from Denmark. The DNA pointed to Scotland. And that's when researchers realized they had a massive problem. If this person wasn't genetically Scandinavian, then what exactly makes someone a Viking? Hold that thought, because what I'm about to show you next changes everything about how we define identity itself. But to understand it, we need to go back to 2020, when the largest Viking DNA study in history dropped a bombshell nobody saw coming. Here's something your history teacher never told you. Before 2020, we had almost no genetic data on Vikings. We were basically guessing based on skeletons and swords. Then Nature, one of the most prestigious scientific journals on Earth, published a study that analyzed DNA from 442 Viking Age humans. 442 from burial sites across Europe, Scandinavia, the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, even Russia. And the findings? Absolutely devastating to everything we believed. Finding number 1, Vikings were not a genetically pure group. The study found massive genetic diversity. We're talking ancestry from Southern Europe, Asia, the British Isles, all mixed into Viking populations. Finding number 2, many Vikings had dark hair. That blonde image, it was probably the minority. The genetics show a wide range of hair colors and features. But here's where it gets really wild. Finding number 3, some people buried as Vikings had no Scandinavian ancestry at all. Let that sink in. These were people given full Viking burials, the swords, the ships, the rituals, who were genetically British, Irish, or from somewhere else entirely. So if Vikings weren't defined by blood, what were they? I'm going to answer that in a moment, but first, you need to understand what they found in the Orkney Islands, because that discovery proves just how wrong we've been. The Orkney Islands sit just north of Scotland. For centuries, historians believed Vikings invaded these islands, killed or drove out the local population, and replaced them with Scandinavian settlers. Standard Viking conquest story, right? The DNA told a completely different story. When researchers analyzed remains from the Viking Age in Orkney, they expected to find overwhelming Scandinavian genetics. They found the opposite. The local Pictish population, the people who lived there before the Vikings, their DNA didn't disappear, it blended. What researchers discovered was large-scale intermarriage. Vikings weren't just conquering, they were marrying, integrating, mixing. The invasion was actually an integration, and those children, those mixed children with half Viking, half Pictish blood, they were raised as Vikings, buried as Vikings, identified as Vikings, but genetically, they were something entirely new. Here's why this matters more than you think. Are you ready for the part that changes everything? Viking wasn't an ethnicity, it wasn't a race, it wasn't even a nationality. Viking was a job description. The Old Norse word Vikinger literally meant pirate or raider. Going Viking meant going on a raid. It was something you did, not something you were. and the DNA proves this. People from Scotland, Ireland, the British Isles, even Eastern Europe, they joined Viking crews, adopted Viking culture, were buried with Viking honors. They became Vikings, not through blood, through choice. This completely destroys the modern myth of Vikings as some kind of pure Nordic race. In reality, Viking crews were diverse, mixed, multicultural. A single longship might carry warriors from 5 different genetic backgrounds, all rowing together towards the same raid. And here's something even crazier. There's evidence that becoming a Viking was almost like joining a franchise. You adopted the culture, the fighting style, the religion, and you were in. Blood didn't matter, loyalty did. But wait, if this is true, then how did we get it so wrong for so long? The answer involves one of the biggest deceptions in historical research, and it started in the 19th century. Here's what they don't teach you. The image of the blonde, blue-eyed, racially pure Viking was manufactured. In the 1800s, Scandinavian countries were building national identities. They needed heroes, they needed mythology. So they took the Vikings, these complex, diverse, multicultural raiders, and they sanitized them. They made them into symbols of Nordic superiority. The blonde hair, the blue eyes, the pure bloodline. It was propaganda, nation-building mythology. And here's the darkest part. In the early 20th century, these myths were weaponized. The Nazi regime specifically used Viking imagery to promote ideas of Aryan racial purity. They pointed to Vikings as evidence of a superior Nordic race, but it was all based on a lie. The Vikings themselves would have laughed at this idea. Their crews were mixed, their families were mixed, their culture absorbed everyone who joined them. DNA has now proven what the historical record always suggested. Vikings were defined by what they did, not where they came from. Now, let me show you the most shocking individual case from the entire study, because this one changes everything. Remember how I said this DNA study destroyed assumptions? There's one grave that became world famous. For over a century, archaeologists assumed it contained a powerful male Viking chieftain. The burial goods were elite: swords, arrows, 2 horses, a full gaming set. This was clearly an important military leader. Then they did DNA analysis. The warrior was female, a woman, buried with full military honors, surrounded by weapons of war. And here's what makes it even more significant. Her genetic profile showed she was likely raised as a warrior from childhood. This wasn't a symbolic burial, this was a soldier. The Vikings had female warriors, not in mythology, not in legend, in reality, buried with the same honors as male commanders. The DNA didn't just rewrite where Vikings came from, it rewrote who they were. And we're still uncovering more. Here's something the study revealed that historians never expected. Viking expansion wasn't random. Different regions of Scandinavia had different target zones. Danish Vikings primarily moved toward England. Norwegian Vikings focused on Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland. Swedish Vikings pushed east into Russia and beyond. And the DNA proves it. Modern populations still carry these signatures. If you have Viking ancestry from a DNA test, researchers can sometimes trace which specific Viking group your ancestors came from. But here's the wild part. The movement went both ways. DNA shows that people from Britain and Ireland didn't just stay conquered, they traveled back to Scandinavia. There are Viking Age graves in Norway and Sweden containing people with British and Irish ancestry. They either went willingly, as traders, settlers, or spouses, or were taken as slaves, who were later integrated. Either way, Scandinavia itself was being changed by Viking expansion. The raiders didn't just change the places they raided, they brought those places home with them. Now here's why this matters to you. If you've ever taken a DNA ancestry test and seen Scandinavian or Viking ancestry pop up, this study shows that's far more complicated than you thought. Viking DNA isn't pure Scandinavian genetics. It's a mix of dozens of populations who lived, traded, fought, and married under the Viking cultural umbrella. That 10% Scandinavian showing on your results, it might include Scottish, Irish, Baltic, Slavic, and even Southern European ancestry, all filtered through Viking Age population mixing. Your Viking blood is actually evidence of ancient multiculturalism. The people who raided monasteries, sailed to North America, and built trade routes across the known world, they weren't defined by their genetics, they were defined by their choices. So let me bring this back to where we started, that grave in Norway, the warrior with no Scandinavian DNA. We now know this person was probably born in Scotland or Ireland, possibly taken in a raid, possibly joined voluntarily. Either way, they lived as a Viking, fought as a Viking, died as a Viking, and their community buried them with full honors, because to the Vikings, that's what mattered. Not blood, not birthplace, action, loyalty, identity. The DNA revolution didn't just rewrite Viking history, it revealed something profound about human identity itself. We are not our ancestors, we are our choices. If this video changed how you think about history, hit subscribe. I drop deep dives into hidden history and DNA mysteries every week.